two souls bound across dimensions, forever reaching for each other, yet always just out of touch. In a world of infinite dimensions where time and space weave together like an endless canvas, Alara stood before her latest painting. The colors seemed to shimmer with an ethereal quality, each stroke echoing a reality beyond her comprehension. Her hands moved slowly, carefully blending the blues with the molten gold, yet her heart felt a heaviness she couldn't explain. She paused, her breath catching as a strange sensation washed over her, an electric charge in the air like the calm before a storm. She wasn't alone. Her fingers trembled, her eyes shifting toward the door, but no one was there. It wasn't a physical presence. It was him, Cale. Though they had never met in this lifetime, she knew his name. His energy filled the space around her, tugging at the edges of her consciousness, as if whispering, "I'm here." But he wasn't. Not really. Not yet. In his sleek office across dimensions, Cale closed his eyes, fingers wrapped tightly around a glass of wine. The soft hum of his D-Stream technology pulsed in the background, its quantum frequencies tapping into the layers of reality he had long searched for. He took a slow breath, feeling her, Alara. It wasn't the first time. He had spent years, perhaps lifetimes, chasing this sensation, this faint resonance that linked him to her. "Alara," he whispered, though he knew she wouldn't hear him. Not yet. His entire life had been about control, about understanding the unseen forces that governed reality. But this pull between them was something far beyond physics. It was primal, magnetic, the very essence of fate woven into the multiverse. He could almost see her, standing there in another world, painting. The thought of her fingers tracing delicate strokes across a canvas made his heart pound. She was close, so close, but every dimension seemed to mock their connection, pulling them apart just as they neared each other. Back in her studio, Alara felt her hand move instinctively, as though guided by something beyond herself. With each brushstroke, the image on the canvas began to blur and shift, not into a landscape or a portrait, but into something alive. Her heart raced, a familiar warmth washing over her. She wasn't just painting, she was reaching out. Her mind filled with the sensation of him, of Cale, and it was as if she could feel him standing beside her. She closed her eyes, tears gathering as she whispered, "Why can't I find you?" In that moment, the universe seemed to answer. The air around her vibrated, and her connection to Cale grew stronger, more palpable. It was as if the very fabric of reality was bending, twisting, trying to bring them together. Alara gasped, her pulse quickening. His name slipped through her lips, a prayer sent across dimensions. In his office, Cale froze. He felt it, the sudden surge of energy, the pull of the universe drawing them together. His breath caught as his fingers hovered over the controls of the D-Stream. He could feel her, closer than ever before. "Alara," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. The data on his screen flickered wildly, patterns emerging, spiraling, collapsing, and then forming again. It pointed to one thing, convergence. The possibility of meeting, of finally breaking through the barriers that had kept them apart. His heart raced. This was it. After all the years, all the searching, the universe was about to give them their moment. But as their connection grew stronger, the universe began to recoil. The subtle physics of their worlds, the delicate balance that allowed them to exist so close yet so far, started to crack under the weight of their bond. Cale's hand tightened around his glass as the air in his office grew thick with tension. "No," he whispered. "Not again." Alara, her fingers trembling, felt the same shift. The connection was collapsing. She couldn't let this happen. Not now, not after everything. Her brush moved faster, desperately trying to complete the painting that had become their bridge across dimensions. "Cale, please," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Find me." Their minds, their souls, collided in that moment, closer than they had ever been. The energy between them surged, filling every corner of their respective worlds. It was powerful, magnetic, undeniable, and then, as if in defiance of the universe itself, they saw each other. Cale's breath hitched as Alara's face appeared before him, her eyes wide with the same desperation he felt. "Alara," he breathed, taking a step toward her, though they were still worlds apart. She smiled, her heart aching with the weight of their connection. "I've been waiting for you," she whispered, her voice trembling with hope. "I'm here," he replied, reaching out, though he knew they couldn't touch. "I've always been here." But as their souls reached for each other, the universe snapped back. The fragile balance broke, and in an instant they were ripped apart. Cale gasped, stumbling back as the connection shattered, leaving him breathless, his heart pounding in his chest. Alara fell to her knees, her hands clutching the edges of the canvas as the painting dissolved into nothing. For a moment, there was silence, an unbearable silence that filled the space where their connection had once been. But neither of them could give up. They knew, deep down, that their love was too powerful to be denied. It wasn't about meeting in one dimension or one lifetime. It was about existing together in all of them, in every universe, in every breath, in every stroke of the brush. Alara stood slowly, her gaze lingering on the empty canvas. She knew Cale was out there somewhere, waiting for her, just as she was waiting for him. And one day, they would find each other. They always did. Cale, his heart still racing, looked out over the city. He knew this wasn't the end. It never was. Their connection was more than just physics, more than just fate. It was something far greater. A love that transcended time and space, a love that would always bring them back together, no matter how many times the universe pulled them apart.